It isn't everyone who makes a mark in this world, a mark that makes a difference in people's lives. One such man was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We've all heard his name. Some have learned much about who he was and what he stood for. Some of us have actually heard him preach and speak. Dr. King was born January 15, 1929, in Atlanta, Georgia. He would be 93 years old today. He was an American Baptist pastor, an activist in the American Civil Rights Movement, and in 1964, at the age of 35, Dr. King was a Nobel Peace Prize recipient for combating racial inequality through nonviolent resistance. Dr. King knew the power of words and used them effectively. His I Have a Dream speech, Nobel Peace Prize lecture, and letter from a Birmingham jail are among the most revered orations and writings in the English language. He spoke eloquently. His words captured our hearts and our minds. They encouraged and inspired. His compelling words were about equality, courage, and forgiveness. But his most powerful message was about love. This past year, we saw Dr. King's messages reiterated on lawn signs throughout our neighborhoods, like, "I have decided to stick with love. Hate is too great a burden to bear. Love is the only force capable of transforming an enemy into a friend. And love is the greatest force in the universe." In 1957, Dr. King delivered a sermon at Dexter Avenue Baptist Church titled, "Loving Your Enemies." He began by telling the congregation that he was sick and had been advised by his doctor to stay home in bed. But he had a compelling message that could not wait. The subject was one that he preached on only once a year. Highlighted from his sermon, Dr. King said, "Loving your enemies is so basic to me because it's part of my basic philosophical and theological orientation. The whole idea of love, the whole philosophy of love." In the 5th chapter of St. Matthew, we read, "Thou shalt love thy neighbor and hate thine enemy. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good unto them that hate you, and pray for them that despitefully use you." Over the centuries, many persons have argued that this is an extremely difficult command. Many would go as far as to say that it just isn't possible. This command is an absolute necessity for the survival of our civilization. Yes, it is love that will save the world and our civilization. Love even for our enemies. Jesus realized that it's hard to love your enemies. He realized that it's difficult to love those persons who seek to defeat you. But we have the Christian and moral responsibility to seek to discover the meaning of those words and to discover how we can live out and by this command. In order to love your enemies, you must first begin by analyzing self. I'm aware of the fact that some people will not like you, but this is what Jesus means when he said, "How is it that you can see the mote in your brother's eye and not see the beam in your own eye?" The second thing that an individual must do in seeking to love thine enemy is to discover the element of good in his enemy. And every time you begin to hate that person, realize that within the best of us, there is some evil, and within the worst of us, there is some good. When we come to see this, we take a different attitude toward individuals. In the final analysis, love is not this sentimental or emotional something. Agape love is something of the understanding, redemptive goodwill of all men. It is a love that seeks nothing in return. It's what theologians would call the love of God working in the lives of men. And when you rise to love on this level, you begin to love men not because they are likable, but because God loves them. Dr. King closed by saying, "Oh God, help us in our lives and in all of our attitudes to work out this controlling force of love, this controlling power that can solve every problem that we confront." Let us remember Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and celebrate his life by embracing this message of love. Love is the only way. The light of Jesus is the only thing that can drive out the darkness of the world. Are you representing Christ, letting his light shine through you and your love for others?